Welcome to the Miami Sports Vibes YouTube channel. Finally talking about a Miami Dolphins win. Oh, man. Finally, man, it feels damn good. Listen, obviously, this season hasn't been perfect, but the Miami Dolphins picked up a W, beating the Los Angeles Rams on primetime football by a final score of 23-15. Listen, there was a lot of things that you can question. There was a lot of things that, it wasn't perfect. There were some things I liked, some things I didn't like, of course, but at the end of the day, the Dolphins got a freaking win, and a win that has been very hard to come by this whole NFL season for the Dolphins. The Dolphins end up doing so, but let's dive right into it, man. First of all, I mean, straight out of the gate, I thought Tua looked freaking awesome. Like, the ball was moving. That first opening drive was freaking money. I mean, the pocket presence from Tua connecting to Waddle a few times, that was something you wanted to see Jalen Waddle get going, and he did that. They kind of set the tone, and I thought that was key for the Dolphins. I talked about it on my preview stream. I said this Anthony Weaver defense has played spectacular all year long. This offense, however, averaging a little bit over 15 points per game is just not cutting the case. But if you're able to set the tone early, I thought that was going to be key for the Dolphins to be successful. And I wanted them to keep their foot on the gas. They didn't, however, but they did score an opening touchdown drive. Malik Washington ended up, carrying the ball on a nice little jet sweep there to the right side for a touchdown. I thought that was awesome. Great execution. Dolphins punch first. Dolphins took the lead early. And then what do you know? Anthony Weaver's defense dials it up throughout the first half, causing multiple turnovers, which is awesome to see. I thought Calais Campbell, another guy who has been like awesome all year round. The talk is Calais Campbell's old, right? He's 38 plus years old. Listen, he looks freaking young to me. He has been solid, man. His veteran leadership, his presence in the locker room, and his ability to make plays and impact the game on the defensive side of the ball has been tremendous all year long. I thought that was great. Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, little shaky first half, man. Entire game, actually. Obviously he did score later on in the game, but the first half he only had one catch. There was talk about that wrist injury, him having a torn ligament in his wrist back from when he was detained before the week 1 game by those police officers. They just revealed that. That was news to me. I didn't know the injury was that serious, but it kind of makes you think, like, Tyreek has not had a good season. Although he did go off against Jacksonville, maybe there was some adrenaline there because he has not really lived up to Tyreek Hill standards. The talk around Tyreek was he doesn't even need Tua. There was games where last year he didn't have Tua and he was still performing good numbers. But, we told ourselves maybe it's a Tua thing. But even since Tua's come back, I think Tyreek has looked a little off, dropping a couple balls, and you haven't really seen that Tua to Tyreek connection. They're not really hitting on deep shots. It's just something clearly is bothering Tyreek. And I thought today it kind of like all made sense when they reported that about the wrist. Jalen Waddle continuing to drop the ball. Even though he did look solid that opening drive, I don't know what it is with Jalen Waddle. I just really need to see more of him. But the Dolphins, I thought they were playing around a lot, honestly. I thought they could easily be up by 3 scores, if not more, at halftime. But at the end of the day, they still, maintained, the lead throughout the game, which I thought was crucial. That shout out to Anthony Weaver. The first half, allowing 6 points again. And what have I mentioned? Now that's 5 weeks in a row where this Anthony Weaver defense has given up 7 points or less to opposing defenses in the first half. That is awesome stuff right there. And 3 out of those 5 games, it was less than 7. So 6 or less, by the way. Weaver is dialing it up. He is freaking cooking. He gets so much credit. And it's just like, where's the offense? I feel like the offense isn't holding up their end of the bargain based to their standard that they're supposed to be. You talk about Mike McDaniel. You talk about him being an offensive genius. You have your team averaging 15 points per game with all of these stars on the roster. They should be averaging 15 plus per half. And especially with Weaver, just giving up 7 points or less in all the 5 games in a row at halftime. I feel like the Dolphins just let teams hang around. And I was a little bit worried heading into the second half, saying, don't let the same thing that happened against the Arizona Cardinals happen again. And here were the first half stats, man. So Tua finished with 87 yards at the half. Obviously, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception that I mentioned. He also did fumble the ball, which you absolutely hate to see. I thought, Tua made a lot of bonehead moves in this game, honestly. It wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect. That's shout out to the Rams, but also, it's tough watching Tua, just play under center, and he just looks like, he's afraid to get hit. Obviously, we know what happens when he gets hit. So, but it's just it's mind boggling to me, man. It's tough to watch. Jalen Waddle finished with those 2 catches, which were pretty much on the opening drive for 55 yards. As I mentioned, Tyreek Hill 1 catch for 12 at halftime. That was a little bit concerning to me. But the main takeaway was Anthony Weaver's defense, man. Anthony Weaver's defense. Also, the team stats, they had 1 penalty at halftime. I thought that was big time. Absolutely love to see the Dolphins not doing what they've done in the past, which is shoot themselves in the foot. They played a nice, clean game when it comes to penalties. Very low penalties gives you a chance to win the football game. Obviously, I don't like the 2 turnovers, both by Tua, but like I mentioned, I mean, Anthony Weaver's, this is flat out defense balling, offense needs to pick up the slack. And then they absolutely did in the second half. Obviously, the Dolphins ended up scoring, over 20 points. So the offense did get going. Tua connected to Tyreek Hill for a touchdown, which I haven't freaking said in I mean, how many freaking weeks? Since week 1, you haven't heard Tua to Tyreek connection. And now we're on week 11? I mean, geez, man. I mean, it took a lot of time, but I thought the Dolphins bounced, played a solid second half, and we look at the stats here. So Tua ended up finishing with a 207 passing yards. He was 20 for 18 from completion completion there, a touchdown scored. Devon Achane finished with 12 carries for 37 yards. Jalen Waddle finishes with 3 receptions for 57. Obviously, quiet second half, as you see. Jonnu Smith, though, he turned it up. He got it going in the second half. 3 receptions for 45 yards, one being in a nice, crucial, moment where the offense, like I mentioned, was just sluggish. Something's got to give. Jonnu Smith catching for a couple catches, leading ultimately to Tyreek Hill scoring that 1-yard touchdown. That was big time. So shout out to Jonnu Smith. I thought he was a key player in this Dolphins offense. Two key players. If I had to give game balls to, it's got to be Jonnu Smith and it's got to be Odell Beckham Jr. And the reason why is because late in that game, Odell Beckham, as you see, he caught the 2 catches for 17 yards, one being an 11-yard catch on 3rd down in a key situation where you're trying to manage the clock. Dolphins know that if you score a touchdown or at least a field goal, make it a 2-possession game, you got this game in the bag. And then on the key 3rd down where you could have gave the ball back, only up by 8 to the Rams with like 6-7 minutes left to go, Odell Beckham catches a beautiful pass and strike by Tua to get that 1st down, keep the chains moving, keep the clock going. I thought that was big time. So shout out to Odell. Tyreek finishes with 3 catches for 16 yards and a touchdown scored. But like I mentioned, I mean, 3 catches for 16 yards, and Tyreek's got Tua back. So to me, it's not a Tua thing. I think Tyreek really is dealing with that wrist injury. I think it's a bigger deal than plenty of people have thought, and I'm pretty sure now after this game, people are definitely going to be paying closer attention to that. Devon Achane, 5 catches for 15 yards. So a little bit of a quiet night from Achane, honestly. But listen, the Dolphins did a lot of creative things just to get the job done. Matthew Stafford, although Weaver's defense did ball out, Stafford had a pretty solid game passing the ball, finishing with 293 yards. He did throw a pick. He did get sacked 4 times. Kyron Williams finished with 15 for 62. Puka had 9 catches for 98. Cooper Kupp, he also got it going. 7 catches for 80 yards. I mean, dealing with those two, it's always going to be a handful. I feel like they're always going to get their stats. But ultimately, Stafford fumbling the ball, throwing picks, that was the recipe. I think the Miami Dolphins defense won this game for them, and I think that the offense made the plays when they mattered most. And usually the Dolphins are on the wrong side of that. They're usually on the other side. When it comes to making the plays that matters most, the Dolphins were able to do so. You talk about that 3rd down conversion from Odell Beckham, like I mentioned, that was huge. That drive, that Jonnu Smith catching those 2 big plays to lead up to the Tyreek Hill touchdown. And obviously the turnovers that the Dolphins defense were able to capitalize on, I thought that was key. Here are the team stats. Dolphins third down efficiency, 6 for 13, as opposed to the Rams 3 for 12. I think that was key. The Dolphins were pretty solid on third down efficiency. Absolutely love to see it. The passing, you see the Rams beat us on the passing game today. No surprise there. I mean, it's exactly what you saw. The rushing game, the Rams also beat us with rushing yards. But look at this, man. 1 penalty is what the Dolphins finished with, and the Rams finished with 6 penalties, surrendering 64 yards. It seemed like the Rams just pretty much handed this game to us, but it was up for Miami. Will Miami have taken advantage of this? They absolutely did. Waited a lot longer than I had hoped for, but ultimately the Dolphins capitalized off the Rams' mistakes, off the turnovers. Like I mentioned, Anthony Weaver gets the ultimate game ball. Honestly, I think he is just continuously just dialing it up week in and week out. I mean, the way he's just locking up teams in the first half, it's a tremendous sight to see. And, the creating turnovers, and the whole defense is buying in, man. I love how he's utilizing Ramsey. We do have some injuries. Obviously, Kendall Fuller picking up a concussion. Got to monitor that, see how that goes. Cater Kohu did go down. He came back into the game, but he's dealing with something. So keep an eye on Cater Kohu as well. The Dolphins, just a weird game, I would say. Very weird. You want to see a lot of things. You expect better from this Dolphins team, in particular this Dolphins offense. But overall, I mean, the Dolphins pick up a win 23-15 over the Los Angeles Rams, putting them to 3-6 and in second place in the division. Obviously, I don't think the division is even reachable, but the playoffs is reachable. Obviously, you're battling there with the Indianapolis Colts, to the Denver Broncos of the world, and the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Jets. So keep an eye on those teams going forward. But the Dolphins, they take care of business. You got to win one at a time, man, to have a chance. And you got to play what's in front of you. So the Dolphins take advantage. They beat the Los Angeles Rams. Now they have the Vegas Raiders next week. That should be an easy game. But like I mentioned, the Dolphins still have a lot of cleaning up to do, man. They have a lot of cleaning up to do. The good thing is that the game is at home. The Raiders stink. They obviously have traded Devontae Adams before. They're mailing it in. They might be tanking, and it might be an all-out tank show over there. So, but at the end of the day, you gotta start building good habits on offense. I really want to see this offense get to a point where they were last year. I just don't understand how this drop-off has gotten this far off. We talk about a team who had Tua number 1 in passing yards a year ago. I'm not expecting him to be number 1 in passing yards because he missed a couple games with the concussion. But, I mean, it's not even close to the offense we were seeing. And I don't know what the problem is, but, I mean, we gave Mike McDaniel this extension. He's got to figure it out. He's supposed to be the guy that, is all about offense. I want to see a better product, man. This is – and he's got to give Anthony Weaver a big-ass hug, because Weaver is the reason why we won this football game tonight. And Weaver is the reason why, if there's any hope at all, it's because we like what we've seen from this defense. Offense has got to do better. But, guys, the Dolphins won at the end of the day. A win is a win. We got to win, finally. 3-6. Got to build from here. Got Vegas this weekend at home. All right, you win this game, you're 4-6. Keep an eye on those other teams that I mentioned over the weekend. Let's see how things go. Maybe we're trending up, but I hope they clean up a couple things offensively. Huge shout out to Calais Campbell again. Huge shout out to Anthony Weaver. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button to support the channel. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your takeaways from tonight's game. Let me know if you're stressing as much as I am about this offense and what you think of Tua's performance. Let me know. A fumble and interception, although he did, deliver when it mattered most with the clock management late in the game. Let me know your thoughts on the comment box. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Dolphins get the win over the Rams. Finally. Fins